And welcome to this World Cup special interview. And I have a very special guest with me, and he's someone who has witnessed it all from ground zero and has now become one of the most prominent coaches in world cricket right now. I am joined by former South African all-rounder Robin Peterson. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out for this interview. And what a World Cup it has been for South Africa.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be a guest on your show. Yes, it's been an amazing World Cup. Lot of surprises. Certain teams doing well that you didn't expect, and South Africa going under the radar a little bit, and they've been looking pretty good. So India obviously as powerful as ever at home, and the Aussies look as though they started to join the race now. So it's all hotting up with the back end.
But honestly, how exciting has it been to witness South Africa play this brand of cricket? They are smashing records. Top four scores in this World Cup are scored by South Africa. Everyone is going hammer and tongs.
Yeah, I think it's been a kind of philosophy that they've tried to ingrain in that group for a long time now. I think that group's got a lot of experience now. They've got a lot of experience of playing in India. They've been involved. I'm talking specifically the batting unit. So they know the conditions, they know what to expect, and besides being incredibly gifted cricketers, they've got a lot of power in that middle order now. Even Marco Jansen batting at 7 is starting to mature a little bit and fulfill a little bit of his batting potential that we've always expected him to do. But it's been amazing to watch. I think the brand of cricket, it's exciting, it's entertaining. For a long time, England were playing that brand. It looks like South Africa have taken on that mantle now, pretty much in the World Cup.
And everyone is talking about that South African batting quartet now. Quinton de Kock, Aiden Markram, Henrik Klaasen and David Miller. They are absolutely smashing it in this World Cup. What do you think has been the biggest reason behind their success?
I think a little bit of maturity now. I think they've been around the international team for a long time. I think the group's aligned in terms to their philosophy with the batting, how they want to go about it. So I think everybody's buying into that as a collective. Also, a lot of these players play in the IPL, so they're used to playing high pressure cricket in India over long periods of time and understand the conditions. So I think they go there under the radar a little bit, where people don't expect much from them. But I think they expect a lot from themselves. They've set themselves some pretty high goals, which they've publicly stated. But I think that's been the secret, the experience they've accumulated in India, and the experience in terms of game time in 50-over cricket.
And one of the most fascinating stories in this World Cup has been of Henrik Klaasen. 4 years back, nobody would have thought that Henrik Klaasen could become this sort of a batsman. A strike rate of more than 120, average of more than 60 in the last couple of years. What is the reason behind this transformation? You have watched him up close. You know what these South African batters, what they think about. But what about Henrik Klaasen? What do you think has been the biggest reason behind this transformation?
I think, like most of these players, they're incredibly gifted. I think having been involved in domestic cricket, this is what I'm used to seeing of Henrik Klaasen. At domestic level, it's just he's transferring what you're seeing now in international cricket is what he does in domestic cricket. Pretty much week in, week out. So it's just about the belief. I think he's got the backing of the selectors, in terms of getting game time. You're going to play, just be yourself. That plays a massive role. And, once he starts putting 1 or 2 performances together against quality opposition, all of a sudden your confidence goes up, So, and his IPL experience, I think Heinrich has always displayed this type of talent. Domestic cricket. So for us as South Africans, we're not surprised to see it. It's just great to see that he's transferring it now to the international stage, and more importantly at the World Cup, I think, for South Africa.
And let's turn the clock back a bit. In 2011, we saw what happened in Nagpur. South Africa was the only team to defeat India in that World Cup. And at one point, everyone was thinking that India has that game in the bag. But how was it to silence the entire capacity crowd in Nagpur?
I think what I remember about that game was we were under pressure for the first 30 overs. I think Sehwag and Tendulkar got 100. it seemed like everybody was just smashing us. And then of course we only had one white ball at the time, so reverse swing was massive. And then Dale Steyn came on and just turned the game on its head, really. With 5 wickets. So we managed to bowl India out. It was great. I think as a team we prepared for that game pretty well. I think you always want to beat the hosts. I think South Africa have a good record in India in white ball cricket. So I don't think, they're pretty confident every time they go up against India. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do against this Indian team, this World Cup. But I remember it was a great experience. I mean, India went on winning it. They were by far the best team, for the conditions in India and the ability to handle pressure at home, was great. But that particular game will always be etched in our memories. I think I still get messages today about it. That's more than 10 years later. So it was a great experience for that whole group to enjoy at the time.
Do you think the script will repeat itself? South Africa defeating India and India lifting the World Cup again?
I'm sure every Indian would like to think so.
Right.
Yeah. I think going into that clash, I think India would still be the favourites, as they always are when they play at home. But I do think if there was any team that had the ability to do it, I think South Africa do. That match has been played at Eden Garden. It just depends on the surface they get to. If the wicket turns or South Africa need to chase again, that's where they will get tested. But I do believe that South Africa will have the confidence that they can beat India for sure. They've got a good bowling unit, good fast bowlers, great spinner in Keshav Maharaj, and some quality batting. So, I do believe that they will be confident going into that game, the Proteas. But, India is such a hard task, man. They've got so many quality players. They could pull players in off the bench that could still, they wouldn't lose anything in their starting 11. So it'll be a great clash, two formed sides, I think, in the competition.
Of course, back in 2011, Virat Kohli was certainly a younger character back then. Did any of your teammates back then imagine that Virat Kohli would end up becoming what Virat Kohli is today?
I think my first meeting of Virat Kohli, I remember going to a Champions Trophy in India and watching Virat Kohli actually play a game against us, a warm-up game in Delhi as a young boy. And I think he got about 70. Already then, we didn't know who he was, but already then there were signs that there was someone special coming through in India. Of course, you fast forward a couple of years later and the guy, ended up playing for India and being a world champion. So I think to see his transformation happen so quickly from that point in time when we saw him playing for Delhi was incredible. His maturity, that 100 he got in, I think it was against Bangladesh, India's that 2011 World Cup. He was just an incredible batsman. Yes. He was that modern Indian batsman that was aggressive and would have that body language and in your face already. So that was a bit different and unique that we noticed of him. But having followed Virat all the years, just to see how he's matured, how he's changed his training regime, his ambition to win games for India. I think his mental capacity is probably second to none, especially when it comes to 50-over cricket, and particularly chases. So I think to watch that evolve over years, I think kind of, to be honest, from my perspective, having watched him, I think I expected him to become this type of player. You just saw the ambition and drive in his eyes, and I'm not surprised what he's achieved, and I think he'll go down as right up there with one of India's all-time greats eventually when he decides to step away.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. He's approaching his 50th ODI century, which itself is a staggering achievement. But Robin, of course, along with Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma has also lit up this entire World Cup with some of incredible batting I have seen in this World Cup. If a Robin Peterson is sitting in that South African dressing room at the Eden Gardens, what would be your message for the South African bowlers and the fielders? How would you stop Rohit Sharma and an informed Virat Kohli?
I think that's going to be the magic trick if you're going to beat India. I think these players are so complete players. They play well on both sides of the wicket. A tactic South Africa like to use is the short, aggressive bowling, which they may go to that. But, both players are incredible hookers and pullers of the ball too. So that's also has a little bit of risk. But I think South Africa will definitely attack them with the short pitch bowling.
Right.
Ask them to play the hook shot and try and maybe, keep their feet on the crease and maybe find the outside edge or even LBW bold. So it's going to be incredibly difficult. I think a lot hinges on those two. If South Africa can certainly knock those two over early, I think it will give the team a lot of confidence going forward. But incredible, tough task to do against India is to, you're trying to just one of them is hard. Trying to do it with two of them will be a real challenge for South Africa.
Oh, that's going to be a fascinating battle, especially on Eden Gardens pitch, which nowadays assists a lot for the seamers. So it's going to be a spicy battle. But again, if I have to ask you about the Indian bowling unit led by Jasprit Bumrah, he has been phenomenal in this World Cup, and now even Mohammad Shami has joined the party with 9 wickets in 2 matches. Kuldeep Yadav is picking wickets with his leg spin. How do you rate this Indian bowling attack? Is it the best in the world right now?
I think if you look at what they have to offer, I think definitely I would have to say that in terms of striking ability, Bumrah and Shami. I mean, Shami just seems to have transformed his bowling. He's been incredible the last few years. So I think for me, they're probably the 2 most skillful opening bowlers in the competition, I'd have to say. I think their ability not only to bowl with a new ball, but to get that ball to move in the middle periods and then close games out at the death. I think the one thing about those 2 fast bowlers, they can bowl at different phases of the game equally well. So I think that's what sets them apart from the other fast bowlers. And then you have the variety in Revsportz with Kuldeep bowling beautifully at the moment, and then obviously not forgetting Jadeja, who's also in that category. So I think in terms of variety, they have a wonderful variety, India, to compete this in all conditions. So they could literally pick that bowling attack, whether the wicket's turning or seaming. They're always going to add something, be a difficult proposition for the opposition batsman.
Will South Africa's slam bang approach should continue against this Indian attack, or should they check what they want to do, especially at the Eden Gardens?
No, I think South Africa will just continue to play. I think what they will do is obviously assess conditions. If the pitch is flat and it's a good wicket, then they'll decide, okay, we'll go hard. If there's a little bit of something in the wicket, they'll just do it a little bit differently, but they'll still try and apply pressure. So I think it's all about how they assess the conditions. I don't think they're going to change their approach. I think their approach is based on their mentality more than actual just going out and hitting. So I think that's a good place to be for that batting group. But I don't think they're going to change their approach. I think they'll just do it differently depending on what the conditions offer.
And of course, South Africa's rugby team recently won the World Cup in a dramatic fashion. They are now being held as a motivation for the cricket team as well, because they are also in the World Cup. Do you think the boys should talk to the South African rugby players as well? Because I remember Siya Kolisi was in Cape Town to commentate actually in one of the South African women's game during the T20 World Cup. Should the guys call up Kolisi or some other guys and take how they handle pressure?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think there's a more emotional and mentally resilient sports team at the moment than South African rugby team. What they've done over the last 6 years. I think that happens naturally. I think the rugby team and the cricket team, a lot of these guys have gone to the same schools. So even a lot of the rugby players would have played cricket at school, so they would have known each other from school level. That whole transfer of knowledge and understanding that pressure and responsibility, I think, would definitely inspire the South African boys, even though South Africa hasn't won a cricket World Cup yet, and South African rugby has won 4. I think there is always that transfer of knowledge between the group, whether for decades now. So, but I think what they've achieved in the last 6 years would definitely inspire the cricket team for sure to try and go a little bit further, than they have before.
Right. I've read multiple of your interviews in the past where you have said the 2011 missing out of that 2011 semi-final spot was a real heartbreaker for you. And of course, South Africa over the World Cup history has done really well in group stages, really well in crucial matches, but somehow in semi-finals or quarter-finals or near about that stage, they somehow miss out from that intensity. And along with that comes that tag on social media by former cricketers, by commentators, that chokers tag. Do you think, why do you think has been the case with this South African team or the South African team in past?
Yeah, I think maybe in the past we haven't tackled that as well as we should. in terms of what's required to get better. I think this group will do it a lot better than in the past.
Right.
I think that management group seems to have all the boxes ticked at the moment, as far as like winning important games, the ability to bounce back, getting over the line. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just scrap and get the win. So I think all these conversations will be happening for the past couple of months. But until you do it, that's always the test at the end of the day. They've got to get over the line in one World Cup. I do believe if we win one, I think, it'll sort of start filtering down, and that intergenerational knowledge would start filtering through, just like it is for Australia, just like it has been for India with their cricket team. So once we do it once, I think that sort of intergenerational cricket knowledge will start, sifting down the generations, and eventually you'll see us win a few more, for sure.
Absolutely. And now coming to Robin Peterson, you recently won MLC as coach. How was that experience, and what are your future ambition? Maybe a South Africa head coach or an IPL job? What are you aiming in the future?
Yeah, it's difficult. Firstly, thank you. It was an incredible experience in Major League Cricket. Being part of the MI New York setup. I think I was truly privileged to be given that opportunity from the owner. So it was an incredible experience. I think, the first time cricket was in the United States in terms of a big franchise tournament, which was great. Obviously we had some wonderful players in the group. It didn't start so well, but the team environment was great. And we eventually managed to win some big games and managed to sneak into the final and eventually win it. We've had a lot of leaders in that team, guys like Balti, Pollard, Rashid Khan, Tim Davids, Devil Brevers seemed to mature a lot during that period. So, it was just a wonderful experience to see a group of guys come together and, no matter what, stick together, whether they won or lost. And at the end of the tournament, they become such a tight unit and eventually they didn't believe they could lose a game. So it was a great experience for me. As far as my coaching ambitions, of course, I think everybody would love to eventually coach in the IPL. And do a national team. I think the world of cricket has become so small. I think, you could just do any national team now just to be on the international stage and get that type of experience. But I don't look too far ahead. I think I'm enjoying where I am right now. I'm just enjoying developing players. I work with some of the best young players in South Africa at my local union at the moment. So that keeps me quite busy and gives me a bit of joy coming into work, into the office every morning, that I got a group of young men that want to improve themselves and win eventually and learn how to win consistently. So, I do have those ambitions, but right now I just am where my feet are at the moment. Just enjoying the experience and learning, more importantly.
Just adding a last couple of questions as we are speaking about cricket in US. Of course, LA 28, Los Angeles 28 Olympics will have cricket. How did you enjoy the entire atmosphere around US cricket, and how big a move do you think it will be for the world of cricket?
I think it'll be massive. I think this is what we've always wanted, was cricket entering new markets. I think for far too long it's been the normal, member test nations that sort of dominated where cricket was played. I think taking it to new markets like America in particular, there's a massive thirst for cricket over there. They've got this whole, Asian community in diaspora that live over there that's quite large, West Indian, even South Africans, that live over there. It was great to see Americans actually come into the stadium, even though not in their massive numbers, but there were definitely pockets of Americans trying to sort of come over and get the experience, So it was even broadcast on terrestrial TV over there eventually. So, that's massive. I think cricket needs to become more of a global game at the moment. You're seeing teams like Afghanistan benefit from that now, the way they're performing. Teams like the Netherlands are starting to knock over big teams. So, once cricket starts going in this direction where it becomes more globalized, I think you're going to eventually have the USA, another quality team entering the fray. So, I think it's great for cricket that, you don't want cricket only to be, like I said, between a few countries. It's got to be truly global. And to become truly global, I think adding it to the Olympics will just, be that fire that ignites, the start. And obviously franchise cricket that's moving around the globe at the moment.
Right. So my final question is a series of questions. You have to be extremely quick. with the answer. It's kind of a rapid fire session. So I'll start. I'll fire it straight away. So what do you think? Like India versus South Africa, who will come out as the winner in Indian Gardens?
I think India.
India. Oh, that's a big statement from Robin Peterson. Okay, player of the tournament call from you.
Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli. So the best batter of the tournament?
Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli. Best bowler?
Mohammad Shami.
Mohammad Shami, a late entrant but a great entrant. And the final one has to be, who are your two finalists of this ODI World Cup 2023?
I think India, South Africa. I think they stand the best. Yeah.
That was a no-brainer. I should not have asked you this question. But thank you, Mr. Robin Peterson. It was a lovely chat with you. You gave some great insights, great opinions about how this cricket world is evolving, and along with the World Cup as well. And it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And thank you so much for taking time out for this interview.
No problem, and thanks for having me. It was a real privilege being on your show.
Thank you again.